Before you walk away from prayer, before you let discouragement convince you that your faith no longer matters and your words no longer reach heaven, stop for a moment and listen carefully. Because the faith you are carrying right now, even if it feels tired, bruised, questioned, and stretched beyond its limits, is still precious to God and still powerful enough to bring an answer at the right time. Because faith has never been about how confident you sound, how strong you appear, or how quickly things change. Faith has always been about trust, about choosing to believe God's heart, even when His hand feels slow, about standing on His promises when circumstances try to pull you down. And maybe you've been praying longer than you ever imagined you would, praying through tears, praying through disappointment, praying through silence, asking God to heal what feels permanently broken, to open doors that seem locked forever, to restore what was lost, to calm the storm in your mind, to rescue you from a situation that feels too heavy to carry. And every single day you wake up with a quiet hope that today might be the day God answers. And every night you lie awake, wondering if your prayers are still being heard. And the waiting has begun to hurt. The silence has begun to confuse you. And doubt has begun to whisper that maybe your faith is not enough. But hear this truth clearly and let it sink deep into your soul. God has never ignored faith, not once. And He has never forgotten a single prayer spoken in sincerity. Because the Bible does not show us a God who rushes, but a God who responds with purpose, wisdom, and perfect timing. And when Jesus walked the earth, He consistently honored faith, often stopping in the middle of crowds, chaos, and urgency to respond to someone who simply believed. Saying words like, "Your faith has made you well, and according to your faith, let it be done to you." Not because faith forces God's hand, but because faith opens the heart to receive what God is already willing to give. And one of the most powerful truths Jesus taught is that faith does not need to be large to be effective, because even faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains. Meaning the power is not in the strength of your faith, but in the greatness of the God your faith is placed in. And if your faith is placed in God, even weak, trembling, barely holding on faith, it is still enough. And maybe your faith has been tested by unanswered prayers, delayed breakthroughs, repeated disappointments, and moments when it felt like God was silent while you were drowning. But testing does not destroy real faith. It refines it, strengthens it, and deepens it, because faith that survives waiting is stronger than faith that only celebrates quick miracles. And God values faith that keeps trusting Him when there is no visible evidence yet. And when you look through Scripture, you will notice a pattern. God often answers after a season of waiting, because waiting prepares the heart to recognize the answer when it comes. Like Abraham, who waited years for a promise to be fulfilled. Like Hannah, who prayed through tears before God answered her cry. Like David, who was anointed king, but waited through years of struggle before stepping into that calling. And their waiting was not wasted time, it was preparation time, shaping their character, strengthening their dependence on God, and teaching them to trust His timing over their own. And when Jesus encountered people like the woman who suffered for 12 years and believed that even touching the edge of His garment would bring healing, He did not rebuke her weakness. He honored her faith and changed her life. And when blind Bartimaeus cried out, despite being told to be silent, refusing to let discouragement silence his belief, Jesus stopped everything to answer him. And when friends tore through a roof to bring a paralyzed man to Jesus, Scripture says Jesus saw their faith and responded, reminding us that faith is visible to God even when it feels invisible to us. And these stories are not just ancient moments frozen in history. They are living reminders that God still responds to faith today, because He is the same God now as He was then. And sometimes God answers prayers immediately to reveal His power, and other times He answers slowly to reveal His wisdom. And sometimes He answers differently than expected to reveal His love, because God's answers are not limited to yes or no. Sometimes His answer is wait. Sometimes it is trust me. Sometimes it is grow. Sometimes it is not yet. And waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Because God sees the full picture when we only see a moment. And sometimes what you are asking for would actually harm you if it came too soon. And faith means trusting not just God's ability to answer, but God's wisdom in how and when He answers. And Jesus taught that persistent faith matters, encouraging His followers to keep praying, keep knocking, keep believing, not because God needs to be convinced, but because persistence aligns the heart with God's will. And every prayer you pray draws you closer to Him, even when the answer is delayed. And God never wastes a prayer, never overlooks a tear, never forgets the faith behind your words. And even when it feels like nothing is happening, something is always happening in the spiritual realm, shaping you, protecting you, redirecting you, and preparing you for what is ahead. And maybe right now your faith feels like a whisper instead of a confident declaration, but God hears whispers just as clearly as shouts. And sometimes the most powerful prayer you can pray is simply, God, I trust you. Because faith is not trusting God only when the outcome is clear. It is trusting Him when the outcome is unknown. When the path is dark and when the waiting is painful, and that kind of faith touches God's heart deeply. And one day, at the exact right moment, you will look back on this season and realize that God was answering your prayers all along, not always by changing your circumstances, but by changing you, giving you peace that didn't depend on answers, strength that carried you through weakness, patience that taught you endurance, and hope that refused to die. And your testimony will not just be about what God gave you, but about how He carried you through the waiting, how He grew your faith in the silence, and how He proved Himself faithful even when you doubted. And if you are still holding on to faith right now, no matter how small it feels, do not let go, because faith is never wasted, never ignored, and never forgotten by God. And at the right time, in the right way, God will answer because of your faith. So keep praying, keep trusting, keep believing, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when nothing seems to change, because God is faithful. His promises never fail. And if this message encouraged you, strengthened your faith, or reminded you not to give up on prayer, please subscribe to this channel for more inspirational and motivational messages that will help you trust God and grow stronger in faith every single day.